What's happening, Pod Squad? What's happening, Pod Squad?
What's happening, Pod Squad? Welcome into episode 78 of the show. I love it.
There's no rules. There's no rules here.
We did. It was a great setup for us.
Keep the podcast going.
Look at us.
Welcome to the Stripe It Like It's Hot podcast with your host, Cam Roberts.
What's happening, Pod Squad? Welcome in to another episode of Stripe It Like It's Hot, and I am pleased, honored, and very excited to have a tech guy. I just love what you guys do. It's so cool. Shawn Prince from Attentive.ai is in the virtual house. How are you today, man?
I'm good, brother. How are you, Cam?
I'm really good. Really good. Yeah. I told you a little bit before, this will sound very professional. If Matt does a video, it will look good. It was absolute chaos to make this work today, and I am so grateful that you didn't give up on me. Thank you.
Pleasure is all mine, Cam. But the intro, if you knew the people that I worked with, you would realize I am not a tech guy.
Oh, I'm going to ask you about that. What are you then? What kind of guy are you then?
I'm still trying to figure that out at 42, right? That's what kind of life is. But I don't know. I mean, I've spent a lot of time in the field services side, right, and spent the past 2 years on the tech side. So I try to be the voice of the customer into Attentive, and the voice of our product and tech team back to our customer. So translator is how I kind of think about it.
Totally. Well, I know you're a family man. Tell us a little bit about that. Where's home base for you? Where you live? How long you been there? What's the family look like?
Yeah, great question. So I'm based in Southwest Michigan. That's home. I'm usually either there or a rental car or an airplane or a hotel. Those are usually the 4 home bases. So first half of this year, it's hard to believe we're almost clicking past the halfway point in 2024, but it's been more of the airplane and more of the rental car and the hotel. But when I'm home, I've got a beautiful, lovely wife that supports me in every way possible, and 4 kids as well that are grown and out conquering life as well. So they are the reason that I do what I do.
Man, love to hear that. Love it. So you already kind of said field services background. So let's go in the Wayback Machine, back into the early days. What was that like? What was this like? Your first foray into the working field was in the green industry?
It was actually, depending on how far you want to go back.
Oh, go back, man. I like it all. Go back.
So I was born in August 5th, that type of thing. But when I got into my working life has always been in the green industry. I started mowing lawns when I was younger, operating tractors, working on farms in Southwest Michigan. We've got a really vibrant agriculture, fruit agriculture area in our specific locale. And I spent a lot of times working on fruit farms, picking fruit, working tractors, working the fields, that type of thing. And then I ended up taking that love of just being outdoors into the golf course industry. And I worked on the golf course for a few years. And that actually sparked my interest. That's what got me into my bachelor's degree program. As far as my education out of high school was golf course turf grass management was actually what I went to school for. And so I just wanted to do something outside. I just loved being outside. It was really my driving factor. You want to say that I had all these plans when I was 17 or 18 when I graduated high school, and I didn't. I just wanted to be outside. So that got me outside. So that's what I pursued. Got out of college, and then I ended up just going to work at a golf course locally as their assistant superintendent. Spent maybe 6 months there, and then quickly realized I was going to have to move all over the country to move my way up really quickly. And at that point in my life, I didn't really necessarily have a desire to go all over the place. So I ended up joining Brickman, the Brickman group, back in the day, and spent, I think close to 16 years there. I was committed and loyal there. So Brickman became Brightview, and then I did a short little stint at a facility management firm in Michigan that kind of focused on the East Coast of the states. And then at that company, I actually ran into Attentive. Looked over their software. We had some needs that we had at a certain time with our takeoff and estimating process, and reviewed a few softwares and ended up selecting Attentive. So obviously I was actually a customer before I actually worked with Attentive, which I feel like gave me a unique perspective. And then post that, I ended up Shiva and Ash and I, two of our co-founders and myself, had lunch and started talking. I think we spent 2.5 hours at lunch talking about where they wanted to take the company and what their vision was, and it lined up really well with what I was seeking, and saw a lot of potential for fulfillment there in my life. And so ended up joining Attentive back in, shoot, it was almost 2 years ago now, just shy of 2 years. And that brings us to present day.
Cool, man. That was the summary. I love it. Okay, so I want to ask you about, obviously, I want to talk about Attentive. I want to talk about why it exists, what the mission is, all that. But before we do that, will you humor me?
I want to ask you.
Brickman. As soon as you said the word Brickman, I know them as Brightview. I was wondering, like, where have I heard Brickman before? And it's because it's Brightview. So I'm going to go down a rabbit hole early in this half-hour chat, because a lot of people who listen to this are pavement business owners, and whether it's summer division work or maybe even green work, because some people do like some striping and some outdoor services as well, or whether it's snow removal. The perception that I have of Brightview, like, I don't know a lot about it, but I know it's a massive company. What did you do there? Like, I guess I'm just trying to better understand for myself and for people who have opportunities to work with those kinds of companies. Like, what was it like, and what did you specialize in there?
Yeah, I think it's a shorter answer of what I didn't do there. And not because I was really good at stuff, Cam. It was just because I got moved. I ended up doing a bunch of different stuff. But I spent probably my first 10 years there, I spent in more of an operational capacity. So I was irrigation crew leader, superintendent of a few maintenance crews. I ran some ancillary install crews, account manager, branch manager, really focused on operations. And then I would say my last 6 years, 6 or 7 years there, I was more focused on the sales or business development side of the organization and the leadership side that goes along with sales. So that was kind of my split there as at my time there. But you bring up an interesting point, because I think, like, my perspective into the paving industry is a little bit different than someone that just sat in the paving industry most of their life and they kind of grew up there. Because on the landscape side of things, like, we worked with so many different vendor partners and strategic partnerships there, and I think that's probably a missed opportunity for both sides of the coin there, landscape and paving, to be able to work together from a lead gen standpoint, and even a subcontractor standpoint, because there were tons of times, right, where we would be part of a larger project and we would need service partners to help do things, and vice versa. In Michigan, where I was at most of the time, we had projects that we helped support paving contractors with, like if they were doing a mill and pave essentially, and they had some irrigation that was going to be ripped out just due to construction or things like that, we could come in behind them and help restore some of the areas. So I think there's definitely some synergy, and I think some people in the industry definitely take advantage of that, but I think it's missed as a lead gen and a partnership opportunity for sure.
Interesting. Yeah. So Brickman, like, already just learned something. Like, I didn't realize how involved they were as far as self-performing. So you were leading crews, but the model, from what I understand now, and maybe I'm completely out to lunch, is it is a lot. I do know there's a lot of service partner subcontractor work in their model, particularly in the snow division. I'm not sure if it's the same in the summer, but so towards the end of your career, you were involved in that side. Like, were you involved in dealing with subcontractors and hiring out those kinds of companies?
Yeah. Most of my career, especially when I was on the front end of my experience there, was operationally based. And so when a job got sold, it would be my responsibility to help a, understand scope of work, b, how are we going to execute, and see what partners are going to go to war with us, so to speak, on that. And that included not only like landscape construction projects that had paving side of things wrapped into it as well, but it also included the snow side of the world as well, for sure. So yeah, I think the partnership piece there is certainly an opportunity for all parties involved.
Very cool. So I'm going to ask you one other thing about it then, because in striping in particular, I know across the states, like there's an allure there, or at the very least, like an option for a lot of smaller striping companies to potentially get work with a company like a Brightview or some of the national providers who do have a large portfolio, and they're willing to work with subcontractors on it. And it's funny, like you will hear, and I'm sure you know this. I'm probably not bringing revolutionary info to you. But some people in the industry, particularly in paving and striping, will like never ever even consider it. They're like, absolutely not. I will never deal with those national companies. Whereas others will be like, actually, we get along just great with them. So if you were to give advice, because I know people listening to this would probably like to know, like, should I be pursuing those kinds of opportunities? What advice would you give to subcontractors? Because as a subcontractor, sometimes it looks like the big scary guys, So what advice would you give?
Yeah, that's a great question, Cam. Just thinking through it. I mean, there's probably lots of things that I would recommend, but in general, the local relationship is really important. So you think about these big national companies, whether it's a big national landscape company or a big national paving company, right? Certainly they have their red tape and they have their T's and C's in the contract and things like that. But typically when the work's getting done, like when I was there, I was dealing with the contractor, right? It was Shawn based in West Michigan. I was working with a West Michigan contractor group. So it really boils down to the local relationship. And so if you feel like you can work with that local rep in a good way and there's a good healthy dose of ethics and morality there, I think it could be a potential really good opportunity to partner on strategic work in your specific area. And then also I think people like they probably think that these national companies have these really these contracts with a bunch of teeth in them, right? Terms and conditions and things like that. Take a look at the contract. Everything is negotiable, right? Payment terms, redlining, that's all common stuff with these national companies, right? And while you might not be able to get, movement on some things inside of a contract, certainly there might be other areas where you can get movement or have a clause taken out, like, negotiate the contract. Like, and honestly, I always use that as like a sign of a partnership, right? If there's absolutely no negotiation over a contract and things like that, it gives me a really good flavor and taste of what a relationship might look like down the line. Same with, if they're open to it and they're like, yeah, well, let's talk through this, let's work through this, let's see where we can mutually agree on making some adjustments. I would say that would be another option to that. But like, just spending the minute I've heard that question thinking about it, right? It probably boils down to the local relationship the most. And if you know those people, respect those people and they respect you as well as a company. The other thing, obviously a couple key points to check there would be, how do they pay? What's the reputation in the market, right? If you're net 60 and they pay 75, might not be the right option for you, right? As a contractor. And then also like, how do they handle scope of work and turnaround times and things like that, right? Is everything real quick, always low bid? Maybe that's not your cup of tea. I know that wasn't mine, right, when I was in the operations side. But if they're looking and open to a partnership, and there's a high level of respect and rapport at the local level, that's usually the litmus test that I personally use for it. Honestly, any relationship, but especially if I'm working with another, strategic partner or subcontractor.
Man, that's great stuff. Love what you said about negotiating and like redlining, and like that's not wrong to do that. Oh, I'm so glad you said it. Yeah. So like even in the snow side, like so we do a lot of snow removal, our company, and it's high liability, and I do see a lot of businesses that are entirely subcontracted, and sometimes those results are so terrible, right? Especially if it's a low margin opportunity, and so you don't get the most qualified subcontractor, and that kind of leaves a bad taste, with people's ideas of national providers and subcontractors. But like even in our experience, we have a service provider that is all over Western Canada that we work with both in the summer and the winter. And it's an absolute treat, man. Like the relationship that I have with, I almost said his name, with the gentleman there is like, we get along just perfectly. Right. And not every opportunity works out, but I've found that to be true as well. Like you can work with these people on stuff. And, I probably, just having that one key person in a national provider or a regional provider like that, so critical, man. Makes life way easier.
Yeah, that local relationship is key. I mean, there can be mandates and edicts come down from both sides, right? And but whatever, I always look at the relationship as like, that's kind of that umbrella that protects you from all that stuff coming down, right? Like the relationship at the end of the day, the local relationship is what's going to, make it a positive experience or a potentially negative experience. But on the snow side, I think just with I mean, Cam, with the liability that comes along with snow removal services, like you gotta have a tight relationship on that. And nothing can be like, hey, it's like when your area, right? It's November 15th and we're trying to lock down a snow contract. That just sets people up for failure. But if it's August and we're talking about how we can work together and I've got this in the pipeline and that pipeline, that's those are all, you'll get signs and signals for a good relationship. The trick and key is to listen to them, right? Like if you're down revenue and you need to hit a revenue mark, are you going to take that job on November 15th for snow? Maybe you shouldn't, because even though you might hit your revenue mark, your retention could be horrible because you don't have the right equipment and you don't have the right personnel and you don't have the right material to actually execute it. So while you hit it on paper, my question would be, did you really hit it, based on long-term process?
Bingo. Bingo. All right. I hope someone out there is listening who's like, I hate those national providers. I love the other perspective. So that's great stuff. You know what else helps when you have a snow removal company? Software that does takeoffs in areas automatically for you using AI. That's pretty handy. So there's probably some people out here who still don't quite yet know what Attentive is. What's the 1 minute, 2 minute version? What is it all about?
Yeah, yeah, great question. Long and short of it is we help field services businesses really automate workflows and processes in their business via software. And so on what we're really known for, Cam, is really our auto measure product. And that's really AI automated takeoffs. And so we enable that in two methods. One is aerial imagery, so high resolution imagery. We take screen captures essentially and extract features off that imagery for different features. So if you're in the landscape space, we do landscape features. Snow space, we do all the impervious surfaces and hard surfaces. So think pavement, think drive lanes, think public sidewalks, private sidewalks, those types of things. And then we also do obviously paving as well. So think striping reports, think advanced paving reports is what we call them, where it takes off a ton of the features that you guys need measurements on to actually quote jobs. And we do it in a very quick fashion and a very accurate fashion through our AI and automated processes. The other side of it is on the blueprint side. And so we do automated blueprint takeoffs as well. And really, we do that across multiple trades, general construction, 16 trades. I think we total out to there. And then we do it on the landscape paving construction side as well, irrigation plans, hardscape, all that good stuff. So really two sides of that. And then we have our Accelerate product, which is really taking that takeoff process further into proposals, estimates, job ticket, job costing management, and then your back office as well. So think invoicing. I always say on the Accelerate side specifically, we take it from takeoff to invoice, and that usually captures everything in between. So really two ways we help companies.
Man, so I haven't really dug into the Accelerate. I really wanted to watch a webinar that you guys had a few weeks ago. I just couldn't make it. So you basically said it's everything from takeoff to invoicing. So like, I guess people really just need to take a demo, right, to actually see it. But what does that look like? Like, obviously the estimation is really cool. And it's what you guys are known for, like, getting those automated takeoffs. But you said it also goes into like proposal creation. Like does it have like CRM features in there too? Like what, for a pavement company, a seal coating striping company, like what would be the advantage of Accelerate?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a fully integrated CRM that ties into our automated takeoff process, right? I think that's the beauty of it. It's think auto measure and then Accelerate wraps around auto measure and welds together. So it's one unit, right? So you get the benefits of the AI and automated takeoffs through a fully integrated CRM that flows into takeoffs. And then that takeoff data can then flow into an estimate. You can have multiple estimate templates. So whether that's a striping, estimate template or a mill and pave estimate template, whatever it may be, you can have those different estimate templates built out in the system, flow the data to that. And then from there, once you've done your production review, you tightened up your estimate, set your margins on where you need to be, then you can flow that into a proposal template. And you can actually have different levels of templates, right? If I'm proposing some patchwork, that's going to be $10,000 or less. Maybe I have a 3 or 4 page proposal. If I'm proposing a capital plan for an Amazon that could be $1.2 million, I don't want to do 50 pages, but maybe I have, 15 pages, right? Where we have an estimate template for that as well. And then you can e-sign through the actual system, and then you can actually flow that data into job costing and operation management. So we've got a crew app that goes along with it for time tracking, and it's enabled via biometric authentication. So your crew lead and anybody on your team can actually just take a scan of their face, and it clocks them in at that particular job. The jobs can be geofenced based on the takeoffs that you've already done. And then you can actually do the job ticket management. So you actually get real-time job costing of your job so that you can understand how you're performing on those jobs once they're completed. And then obviously the most important part, Cam, is invoicing the work, right? So once the job ticket's closed out, you can flow that into invoice templates and get that sent out for invoicing. And then we also have the ability to integrate into our typical, there's probably 2 integrations that are probably the most important. Usually your accounting package or accounting software. A lot of times I see in the industry, it's QuickBooks. And then the other piece is your payroll provider. So that might be like an ADP, for example. And so usually those are the 2 integrations that are the most key.
What's up, Pod Squad? This episode of the show is brought to you by our friends at Mighty Line Floor Tape. So, true story, our company started using Mighty Line. We found the product like half a year ago, 2023, we found it, and we started using it, and I was blown away. The product is incredible. And so many of us in the striping industry want to do interior striping, but we also know that interior striping on concrete usually does not work out very well. This is a fantastic solution. If you have customers that want safe walk lines or customized floor decals, check out their website on Mighty Line. It's incredible. They have an awesome portfolio of stuff. And if you've never tried the product before, head to the website, let them know that you got the info from the podcast, and they will actually send you a free sample box. Check it out, Mighty Line Floor Tape. We are so grateful for them to be sponsoring the podcast. Man, you guys got to figure it out. Soup to nuts, man. That's awesome. It's amazing how many companies are not taking advantage of stuff like this. It's such a time saver, right?
Yeah. And I would say the one thing, Cam, though, is like it's a big decision to make a switch, or if you're on Excel, right, for most of your business, to get on to a software. It's not I don't want to paint a picture where it's not a big task, right? It definitely takes some time. It takes some leadership from inside the company of like leading their people saying, hey, we're going to do this, and here's why, and here's what the integration is going to look like, and being very transparent, open, and honest with your team through that process. And we can certainly talk more about it, but I think it's definitely a big lift, but it's an important lift, especially if you want to, grow and scale the business.
Totally. So you joined 2 years ago. Were you one of the original founders as well, or was it already up and running beforehand?
Yeah, I was not one of the original founders. Shiva, our CEO, was the original founder, and then we've got 2 other co-founders that run alongside him, and Ash, who's our VP of Product and Strategy, and then Rishabjit, who is our Chief Technology Officer. So that group makes up the co-founders office essentially. And then, I think when I came into it, our main product, Cam, if I'm remembering correctly, a couple of years ago was really the auto measure aerial side, and we were really focused on that. And then maybe a month after I had joined that summer, we had released the blueprint side of things. So we were really just singular focused on one product when I joined. And then over the past 2 years, we opened up the blueprint side of things. We opened up the Accelerate end-to-end business management software. And then we also have our Beam AI division of the company as well. That's really focused on that blueprint general construction side of the business that I mentioned.
Man. Well, I don't know you that well, but I know this. One does not leave a place at 16 years to this fancy upstart AI company unless they're really bought in. What was it for you? Like what about the product at that point, or the company? Probably wasn't product, probably partly product, but what was it about the company that made you go, I want to be part of that?
Yeah, that's the foundational question, because I'm not like I'm not born a risk taker, Cam, right? Like I'm not taking a
Four
ton of
kids, bro. Four kids. Like,
solid point. Solid point. I would say like I had an experience with Attentive before I joined them where they they did two things. They listened and they executed. And I would say it'd be really ironic if Attentive didn't listen. You know, that's the biggest irony in the world with that name, right? We've set ourselves up for massive success or massive failure, right? And so when I made the decision to buy the software and use it for our team, I had four or five things, right? They were young in the process of auto measure aerial. They were continuing to make the product better. And I had probably five things that I wanted to see in the software as improvements. And they listened intently, like most, vendors or partners would at that time. And then about 40 to 45 days later, they came back and they hadn't executed on all five, but three of them they did. And they took my feedback, had me test it, and it was this rapid development of the product from the product team and the leadership. But there was also this like overarching vision about like the customer is our hero, right? The customer is our voice and speaks into the company. And I saw that play out outside of the business as a customer. And I had an urge to get back to that myself, right? Of like not necessarily a P&L informing the decisions that we make in a business, but our customer informing the decisions. And when I say that, I totally predicate it on you've got to have a responsible P&L and financial rigor in your organization, because you have to make sure you're still there next year. That goes without saying. But the what I saw at Attentive was like our customer will help inform our product roadmap, and our sense of urgency will be driven to serve the customer. And those are the things I experienced myself. And when I sat down at that lunch with Shiva and Ash to have that conversation, um, I saw into who they were as people, and that vision really poured out of the leadership group that was inside the organization. And it wasn't just a tagline. It wasn't just something they had above their door, so to speak. It was something that they were living out and breathing. And so we had some long conversations. I think the whole process lasted probably 2.5 months. Again, back to my risk taker comment. And we finally ended up, I told my wife, I said, I think this is the real deal. I'm not sensing any, BS, so to speak. And I'm thinking about making the move. And like my wife normally does, she goes, just do it. You want to do it, you're going to do it. Just do it.
Sounds like mine. Yeah.
So I did. I did.
Man. So there's options now, man. Like, tech is it's just ramping up like crazy. So you guys have competitors that do similar things, and they're all probably slightly different. What would you say is the added value, or why someone should take a really good look at Attentive and Accelerate? Now that's a newer product, but what's the thing that you guys have that would make a company listening to this go, yeah, I want to try that out?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is what I just said, right? Like, so yeah. I've got a thought process that I've developed over the past 2 years of, being in the service industry was interesting because, Cam, if you don't have a relationship, you don't have a renewal, right? Like just that's how things work in our industry. And when I got into the tech space and the SaaS space, I don't think that's necessarily put first in most companies in the tech space. I think it's more of, hey, we're going to get you hooked up, we're going to plug you into the machine, and then you just use the product, right? And there are some organizations out there that don't adhere to that. They do have a great, culture as far as customer focus, but in general, that's what I've seen. So in my mind, I always think of product versus partner, right? So tech evolves so quickly. So like when I think about the landscaping and paving space, man, Cam, like, 1 year in tech is like 10 years in our space, right? Like the amount of things that change and the amount of iteration that comes out and the continuous improvement just happens at such a faster pace. So I think you need to understand what you need out of a product. And I think that's an important piece. But I also think you need to understand what you want out of a partner as well, because you make a decision, for instance, we get on a demo, we go over Accelerate, we work through the process, you demo the product and run through a pilot, and then you make the decision to, okay, I'm going to go live, I'm going to buy this, right? Well, that's only like 5% of the process. The other 95% on the back end is all the go live, all the training that needs to happen, all the data migration that needs to happen. And then the team behind it, you're going to be with to understand your pains, your concerns, your bottlenecks, and help to work you through those in the software, and then continue to develop the roadmap to make that software better and better and not lose steam. And so when I say product and partner, that partner piece is that 95% I'm talking about. And there are lots of competitors in the space, both in Accelerate and both on the auto measure side, that we compete against every day. And our turnaround time and our accuracy, I would say in general, is better than those companies. But I don't think that's what truly matters the most. It's that partnership that you have with that company that's going to prioritize that roadmap and continue to partner with you to make that product better and better with a high sense of urgency. That, in my opinion, Cam, we do better than anybody else, and that's our differentiating value.
Man, Shawn, you're good at what you do, bro. That's awesome. That's awesome. So before we hit record, or maybe it was after record, I don't remember. You were saying something about webinars. I know I missed one recently that I really wanted to get to. It sounds like you guys, this is becoming a recurring thing where you guys put on free webinars for people to understand the product. Where do people find those? Like if somebody's listening to this and was like, boy, I would love to not have to worry about my striping estimates again, or I'd love to just, have that all done. Where's the best place for them to learn?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can visit our website. You can check out my LinkedIn, and then also our webinars are hosted on a monthly basis, usually every Thursday. We have one coming up this Thursday. I don't know when this is going to air, but essentially we have one coming up on the 20th of June, and we hold those every month essentially, and they're called the Fuel Up series. And really, we have a little bit of conversation about technology, but we usually have a panel of industry vets that are included. And like this time, we're going to be talking about career pathways inside the different field services industries. And the next time we might be talking about specifically like technology as it relates to equipment or things like that. So it's more of an authentic, informal conversation where you can get to learn a little bit more about Attentive, but we also bring some education into it so you can really understand and learn about like the actual industry as well.
Man, I highly recommend people check them out. Not because I've been to the webinars, but am I allowed to tell the quick story of the meeting that you gave me about the product?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh man, so like we've used Attentive, and it's so cool. It's so cool. So we were piloting it in our company. I was like, can we use it for, we sell a lot of striping outside of our immediate area. The only downside, as you know, Shawn, is like our part of the world, the map quality in northern Canada, it just isn't great. Like it's okay. But when I look at my friends down in like, oh man, anywhere in the States really, but like New Jersey, New York, and I just see the detail. I'm like, man, it's just so good. So I remember I was like, well, what is there anything we can do about this? And you guys took like a 30-45 minute feedback meeting with me, and I'm like a nobody, man. I was just taking it for a spin, but like that impressed me, man. And like I feel it as a customer too. Like you guys really, the give a crap meter is very high, and you're not just out to sell subscriptions. So, man, I'm rooting for you guys.
No, I appreciate that, Cam. That's the biggest thing, right? As we grow, that's part of our DNA is that customer focus. And I think honestly, like I'm going to speak transparently, that's probably the biggest danger to our business, right? As we grow and become successful, like do we bring people on our team that lose that focus or don't have that as the number one priority? And so I know it's Shiva's goal and it's my goal that as we continue to grow and as we continue to be successful and are blessed as a company, how do we make sure that our team understands what our our vision is for Attentive, and that focus stays there. And so that's really my biggest goal with Attentive is to make sure that we have that customer first focus.
Yeah, man. Well, keep it up because I feel it. So webinars are coming out. That's something people should definitely check out. Any other what else is there anything else under the hood? I always like to ask, is there something else coming down the pipeline? What are you guys working on?
I mean, we always got stuff under the hood.
Everyone says that, Shawn. We're always working on stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've got some exciting stuff that I think we're going to probably come out with towards the end of this year, as we work through the summer and work through the fall. And I think, like in general, like just the AI piece, right, within Accelerate, that will continue to be injected into the software and continue to be a part of it, help automate workflows. I think the whole idea we were talking about, the integration side of things, right? Like, if you have the opportunity to automate it, do it, because I remember back in my days when I was running crews, and they would always be like, well, we don't want to finish our mowing because we want to make sure we get 40 hours. And I remember do you understand how much work I have for you to do as a team, that you never have to worry about not getting 40 hours ever, right? Let's get some of the maintenance done. I've always got some work orders that need to happen, right? And I think of it like that way. When you automate workflows in your business, that story always resonates in my head of man, if you can automate it, get your people working on stuff that matters more than what that manual data entry is or what that manual workflow is. And, the integrations are a big way to do that. You've got some really talented people sitting in your payroll department. Put them on stuff that's important, rather than just the data entry stuff, because they're capable. They're definitely capable. So I really think there's an opportunity to continue to automate. And that's what we're really focused on, not only the balance of this year, but as we go forward.
Cool. Well, I'm going to be following along, dude. I want to see what's coming. So, man, did I miss anything?
No, Kim, I think we covered a lot of ground. I just wanted to make sure I covered my personal history from when I was born to college, so we got through that, right? But no, I think we covered most everything. I'd love for people to check out our website, check out our LinkedIn, and we're very active in that arena. And then also check out our webinars. We'd love to have you on, and we usually have a special offer as well on those webinars as well, for people to take advantage of something in regards to Accelerate or Auto Measure. So would love to have everybody attend.
Good to know. Yeah, go to the webinar, get the offers. Yeah, personal compliment. You are the fastest LinkedIn responder ever. You're all over it, bro. How do you do that?
I appreciate that, Cam. The one thing is I don't do Facebook, and I don't do Instagram. I don't do any of the other stuff.
That helps.
So really my focus is just on LinkedIn. It certainly helps with mental health as well, because LinkedIn is a little bit more bright than maybe a Facebook or an Instagram, I would say.
You know what? You just made me think. I think that's why I spend more time on LinkedIn than Facebook, and I don't do anything on Instagram. Yeah, I think that's why.
Yeah. The other stuff is kind of garbage in my opinion, but LinkedIn, there's a lot of value, and that's where I choose to spend my time.
Cool. Well, if you're listening to this and you want to find Shawn, you want to find Attentive, go to LinkedIn. If you're not on LinkedIn, get on LinkedIn, then go find Shawn. He will respond. Yeah, great. I'm grateful for everything you guys do. The product is super cool. I'm rooting for Elon or whoever's in charge of map quality in remote Canada. Let's get on that. I want to see that map quality improve. But yeah, I'll be rooting for you guys every step of the way. And man, thank you for coming on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Cam, appreciate you, brother. Appreciate what you do for industry and raising people up in the field services industry. That hasn't happened enough, and I appreciate you being a part of it.
Let's grow, brother. Let's grow.
All right. Thanks, Cam.